I woke slowly, stretching under the warm blankets as pale morning light filtered into our bedroom. The space next to me was still indented from where my wife had been sleeping, though Mary herself was already up and getting ready for the day. I could hear the shower running in the master bath. I smiled drowsily, the comforting familiarity of our morning routine sinking into my bones. Just another Tuesday. Mary would be downstairs soon, brewing a pot of coffee and frying up eggs for our breakfast. After 12 years of marriage, we had our habits down pat. I rolled out of bed and shuffled downstairs, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. The kitchen smelled deliciously of fresh coffee. Mary stood at the stove, poking at the eggs sizzling in the pan. She was already dressed in her work clothes, a conservative gray pantsuit for her marketing job downtown. "Good morning, my love," I said, coming up behind her to plant a kiss on the nape of her neck. She didn't react but for a small hum of acknowledgement. I tried not to let the indifference sting. I knew she wasn't the most affectionate before her morning cup of joe. I moved to grab mugs from the cabinet, pouring each of us a generous cup. As I doctored mine with cream and sugar, I asked, "So, just 3 more weeks until the big day, huh?" Mary's brow creased for a moment before her face smoothed again. "What big day?" "Our anniversary," I chuckled. "Don't tell me you've forgotten already. I swear, you'd forget your own head if it wasn't attached." Mary forced an uncomfortable laugh. "Oh right, of course. How could I forget?" She scooped the steaming eggs onto 2 plates and carried them to our small kitchen table. I brushed off her momentary memory lapse as we ate in companionable silence. Mary had never been great with dates. I'd ended up planning most of our anniversary celebrations over the years. Her strengths lay more in keeping the household running smoothly day to day. She kept us fed, the house immaculate, the finances balanced expertly. I could pick up the slack in remembering sentimental occasions. As I shoveled down my eggs, I recounted our anniversary plans: dinner at that upscale restaurant downtown, the one we had to book months in advance. It was a pricey treat, but I didn't mind splurging for our special night. Mary just nodded, making no comments or additions to the plans I sketched out. I filled the empty air, nattering on about work and my softball league until I had to leave to make it to the office on time. At the front door, I paused to give Mary a proper goodbye. She endured my kiss but did not return it, her body stiff in my embrace. I backed away, trying to ignore the coldness seeping into my bones that had nothing to do with the autumn chill outside. Something felt off. Not drastically, but in subtle, barely perceptible ways. It nagged at me all day at work, like an itch I couldn't scratch. When I arrived home that evening, I resolved to shake off the strange tension. I was probably imagining things, inventing problems where none existed. Mary greeted me with her usual polite smile, and a delicious pot roast for dinner. As we ate by candlelight, I told myself all was well. But the food tasted flavorless in my mouth. And those flickering candles cast unsettling, twisting shadows across the face of the woman I thought I knew better than myself. The flames illuminated a darkness in her once warm eyes that I could no longer deny. The mouth-watering aroma of roast chicken filled the house as I walked through the front door. My stomach rumbled appreciatively. After a long day at the office, I was eager for dinner. "Honey, I'm home," I called out. No answer, but I could hear clattering dishes in the kitchen. I loosened my tie and made my way towards the heavenly scents. Mary stood at the counter, her back to me as she washed vegetables for a salad. The roasted chicken sat cooling on the stove. "Hey hon, how was your day?" I asked, coming up behind her to plant a kiss on her neck. As usual, she remained stiff and silent at my touch. I tried not to take it personally. "Dinner smells amazing." "Chicken is my favorite," I said, opening the stove to peer at the golden brown bird. I know it's not your favorite, Mary replied tonelessly. You don't care for chicken, you've always preferred beef or pork roasts. But this needed using up. I drew back, frown etching my face. She was right, chicken was far from my favorite meat. I preferred hearty beef and pork dishes, while Mary loved poultry. Oh, right, well, it still smells delicious, I tried weakly. Mary didn't respond, continuing to robotically prepare the salad. We ate in silence at the dining room table, the only sounds the clink of silverware on plates. The chicken tasted like sawdust in my mouth. I choked it down, washing it down with gulps of wine. Halfway through the meal, I set down my silverware with a decisive clang. Mary didn't react to the harsh sound. Is everything okay, Mary? You've seemed off lately. Everything is fine, she responded automatically. Too automatically. I gestured helplessly at the table between us. Then why make something you know I don't like for dinner? You used to plan my favorite meals for when I had a rough day at work. Now, it's like you don't know me at all. Mary's expression remained neutral and disaffected. My apologies for the substandard dinner. I'll do better next time. Her tone was as empty as her eyes. I searched her face for some glimmer of the woman I loved, who used to light up when she saw me walk through the door. Who rubbed my shoulders when work stressed me out, and knew my favorite foods by heart. This indifferent stranger was more ghost than wife. I reached across the table to clasp her hand, desperate for some flicker of warmth from her ice-cold skin. Mary, please talk to me. What's happening to you, to us? I feel like I'm losing you a little more each day. She slipped her hand from mine. You're being emotional. Everything is fine. No, I protested hoarsely, everything is not fine. I don't know what's going on with you, but you're not the Mary the first married. Something shifted in her face then, the barest hint of a sneer twisting her lip. You're right, Tom. I'm not. With that she stood, and began calmly clearing the table as if nothing was amiss. As if she hadn't just admitted she wasn't my Mary. Dread crept up my spine. If the woman before me wasn't my wife, who, or what, was she? The next morning, I went through the motions of my routine on autopilot, my mind troubled by Mary's bizarre behavior the night before. Her admission that she wasn't my Mary had chilled me to the core. Who was this woman who looked like my wife but didn't act or sound like her? In the kitchen, I opened the cabinet to grab my favorite coffee mug, a large blue one emblazoned with my college logo. My hand grasped at air. Frowning, I scanned the shelves, pushing aside other mugs and dishes. But my favorite mug was nowhere to be found. Unease curdled in my gut. I checked the dishwasher, but it was empty. Just to be certain, I searched the other cabinets and counters. Nothing. My mug had simply vanished. I was about to give up when a glint of blue in the trash can caught my eye. Heart sinking, I retrieved my favorite mug from the bin, where it lay shattered into a dozen pieces. Mary had broken it and thrown it away without a thought. The careless destruction of my most cherished mug felt like the final confirmation that something was terribly wrong with Mary. She knew what that mug meant to me, and the real Mary would never have callously disposed of it like worthless garbage. Hands shaking, I dumped the ruined mug shards back into the trash. I had to talk to someone, anyone who might help me make sense of what was happening. I couldn't rely on Mary for comfort, she was the source of my fear and confusion. Almost without conscious thought, I found myself dialing my best friend Phil. He answered on the second ring. Phil, it's Tom. Sorry for calling so early, but I didn't know who else to talk to, I blurted out. Slowly, haltingly, I told him about Mary's bizarre personality changes, her coldness, the dinner incident, and now the destroyed mug. Phil listened silently, letting me pour out the whole story without interruption. When I finally ran out of steam, he exhaled heavily. Tom, I don't want to worry you, but something very strange is going on with Mary. This isn't normal behavior for her, or for any loving spouse. If I didn't know better, I'd say she was replaced somehow. I scoffed weakly. Replaced? You mean like with a clone or something? Don't be ridiculous. Things like that only happen in sci-fi movies. But even as I said the words, I felt a nagging doubt. Could something sinister really have taken my Mary from me and put some imposter in her place? Phil's next words turned my blood to ice. Tom, I didn't want to tell you this, but a few weeks ago, I thought I saw Mary downtown. She didn't react when I called her name. I assumed she just didn't hear me, but now. The unspoken implication made me sway on my feet. Phil had seen Mary, which meant the woman living in my house was somehow an intruder assuming my wife's identity. Every instinct screamed not to trust her. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew one thing: I had to get to the bottom of the twisted charade swallowing my life. My Mary was out there somewhere. And I was going to find her, no matter the cost. After my chilling phone call with Phil, I tried to act normal around the woman posing as my wife. I laughed at her stale jokes over dinner and pretended to listen attentively when she spoke. Inside, suspicion festered like an open wound. That night, I enacted the plan Phil and I devised. I set up my phone to record audio overnight. If the imposter, Mary, was up to anything sinister, would capture it on tape. The next morning, I listened to the recording on my commute. 8 hours of mundane sleeping sounds. Just as I was about to give up, I heard a telling segment near dawn, footsteps creaking down the stairs, followed by a series of dull thuds and the unmistakable shatter of breaking glass. My blood turned to ice. Whatever she was up to, it couldn't be good. That evening, I rushed home, on high alert for anything amiss. At first, everything seemed normal. But when I went upstairs to change, my legs nearly buckled beneath me. My home office had been ransacked. Cherished mementos lay smashed, photos of our wedding, my grandfather's antique watch, the ship in a bottle I'd proudly assembled. Even our computer was smashed beyond repair. I staggered downstairs where the imposter sat, sipping tea. Rage burned inside me, but I held my tongue. She didn't know I was on to her sick game. Working late again tonight, she asked lightly. I muttered an excuse about a project deadline. Upstairs, I began documenting the destruction, still baffled by the violation of my sanctum. What could she possibly gain from such senseless demolition? It was almost like she was studying me. Trying to strip away everything that made me who I am. Erase my very identity, bit by bit. Over the next few days, her destructive rampages continued. My clothes went missing. Old yearbooks disappeared from the attic, along with photo albums chronicling my childhood. She even mutilated my beloved jazz record collection, snapping the vinyl discs in half. I added it all to my evidence file while pretending everything was fine. Soon I'd have enough proof to confront her and get the truth. The breaking point came the following Saturday. While she was out running errands, I planted myself in front of the hallway closet, heart hammering. Right on cue, she returned mid-morning and went straight for the closet that housed my home office supplies. I jumped out and caught her red-handed about to destroy my beloved vintage typewriter, passed down from my grandfather. "What the hell are you doing?" I demanded. She glanced up, no guilt or shame in her deadened eyes. "As I told you, I'm merely getting rid of some clutter around the house." My outrage boiled over. Those were my prized possessions. My clothes, my memories, my hobbies. You've taken everything that makes me who I am. The creature wearing my wife's face simply tilted her head. "Yes, I suppose I have. She stepped towards me, an icy smile spreading across her face. Don't worry, Tom. Soon you won't miss any of it. Soon you won't remember who you were at all. A deep ache of despair pierced my heart. This was no imposter. This was something far more evil, intent on erasing me completely. And I feared it was already too late to stop it. I could barely contain my rage and confusion as I confronted the thing posing as my wife. Why? I demanded through gritted teeth. Why are you destroying all my possessions? Our memories. The creature wearing Mary's face showed no remorse. I don't know what you mean. I'm simply tidying up around the house. There's no need to be so sentimental about insignificant objects. I barked out a harsh, unbelieving laugh. Insignificant. Those were deeply meaningful items from our years together. Mementos of our wedding, vacations, holidays. Trifles, she interrupted coldly. Material objects do not matter. I slammed my fist down on the kitchen table, making her jump slightly. This twisted game ends now. I want answers, damn it. The thing pretending to be my wife narrowed her eyes, all pretense of ignorance gone. Careful, Tom. You're allowing emotion to cloud your judgment. As I said, I'm merely doing what's best for us, even if you can't see it. A chill swept down my spine at her detached, clinical tone. This was no impassioned argument between loving spouses. She eyed me with the calculating calm of a scientist observing a lab specimen. I had to know the truth. That night after the creature fell into bed, I waited an hour to be sure she was deeply asleep. Like a thief, I crept upstairs to the home office where I'd allowed her to maintain the household files. My hands shook as I rifled through folders and papers detailing our finances, insurance policies, bills. Everything seemed perfectly normal. Until I reached the bottom desk drawer. This one was locked, but my key easily opened it. Inside lay a manila folder marked confidential. My heart stuttered as I flipped it open by desk lamplight. I nearly collapsed when I saw the contents. Medical records. Test results. A death certificate. All with Mary's name, dated over 6 months ago. Mary was dead. My wife had been gone for half a year. This thing had assumed her place, erasing any trace of my true wife. It was too monstrous to be believed, but the evidence was undeniable. I shut the file quickly as bile rose in my throat. I had to escape. Get help. But I forced myself to remain calm. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with before fleeing. I descended the stairs on trembling legs to confront the sleeping imposter. Wake up, I commanded, flipping on the blinding bedroom light. She sat up slowly, blinking against the glare. There was no confusion or fear on her placid face. I found the file, I spat. I know Mary's been dead for months. What the hell are you? A slow, cold smile spread across the creature's face. So you know the truth now. What gave me away? Revulsion roiled my gut. The details don't matter. What matters is that you're not Mary. You're something meant to replace her. It nodded serenely. Yes, I am a replacement. And a superior one at that. I have no inconvenient human emotions. I exist only to be the perfect wife. Blinding rage seared through me. With supreme effort, I choked it down. I had to escape this nightmare house and the monstrous thing inside. You'll never be my Mary. I fled into the night, the sound of its emotionless laughter chasing me into the darkness.